Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Masterclass 4. Whilst we're waiting for another few seconds to admit everybody, can I just remind you a few of the rules? This session is currently recorded and will be shared with delegates that registered to the class but couldn't attend, and to the UK-India tech startup companies. Whilst we're waiting for everyone, introduce yourself in the chat room. Tell us who you are, what you're doing, and I will enable conversations for later on. So, for example, let me start with myself. I'm Sylvie Russell, head of operations at Cambridge Cleantech, and we have run 4 masterclasses this month as part of the UK-India Tech Startup Program. I'm conscious of the time, and I know that our guest today has a lot to say. So may I introduce you to Alessia Mevoli. She's part of the Anglia Ruskin University. This is one of the 2 biggest universities here in Cambridge in the UK. And today we're going to, she's going to teach us how to think about our minds and our business and how the 2 together can really give us strengths whilst we set up and carry on doing businesses. Alessia, welcome, and the floor is yours. I'm just going to stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Sylvie, for the lovely introduction. So just give me a sec. I'm going to put the presentation up and running on screen so we can get started. It's a massive pleasure for me to be here today. I was really excited when I heard that I was invited to deliver this masterclass. First of all, because I truly believe in the topic that we are going to be talking about today. So I've entitled the masterclass, Tough You, Tough Business. Why? The topics that we are going to be touching upon are the concepts of self-awareness and mental toughness. You must have heard a lot about self-awareness, why being self-aware is important, but when it comes to putting into practice, lots of people don't do it. They don't do it either because they're skeptical about it, or because sometimes it's really tough to start thinking about yourself and questioning yourself. But I can tell you, and I can assure you that by getting to know yourself better and what would be your mental response to situation, this is the key that is going to make your business perform even more. So we are going to have a look at how self-awareness is going to impact your business. And I'm going to be touching upon the concept of mental toughness. So if you never heard about it, that's great, because that's why I'm here today. So just to give you a brief overview of the concept itself. Just a little bit about myself, not going to spend a lot on it because we only have an hour to stay together and lots of things I want to go through. But who I am, I'm Alessia. I work at Anglia Ruskin University, as Sylvia has just mentioned. I work as an associate lecturer in human resources and organizational behavior. So my background is mainly in the HR-related field. So I'm really interested in the concepts of women in leadership, organizational behavior, and I do study the concept of mental toughness and self-awareness. And I research the close connection that you have got. And hopefully today I can give you a broad understanding of it and how this can impact your business. I'm expecting that the vast majority of our audience are startup owners, or you want to kick off a venture, or you work in the entrepreneurial world. So how can we apply this concept in your real life and work situations? For me, what's the key to success is quoting Nelson Mandela here. So it always seems impossible until it's done. I bet everybody in this room has faced a moment in their life where you were not sure about what you were doing. You started to doubt about the outcome, about yourself, and you started maybe sometimes to be scared of what the consequences of your action would be. And maybe you thought, well, I'm not gonna make it. Well, after today's masterclass, I hope that your mindset will slightly switch towards more of a different approach. So as a founder of your business then, building your agility is essential, because only by knowing how you react to things and how you approach things, this is going to be imprinted into your startup's DNA. Now, why this is essential, guys, here? Because you might have a brilliant idea. So if you kicked off a business, you must have had a great product, a great idea. But the point is, how can I make sure my business is sustainable over time? How can I nurture the talents that I've got in my business? Or even, how can I know myself so that I make the right choices? So this is the mindset I want everybody in this room today to have. So be critical about yourself. I'd really love if you could critically analyze yourself while I'm talking. Please do have a piece of paper and a pen, or open up your notes in your laptop, because I'm going to ask you to think about scenarios, to think about situations. So it would be great if you could really engage yourself into it, because only by critically thinking about yourself, you're gonna get self-awareness of it. So this is the only thing I'm going to ask you today. Just really go into the topic with me, okay? We will have time for questions. Feel free at any point to write any questions in the chat. I will stop halfway through to ask any questions, and Sylvie will let me know if there is any urgent questions that needs answering. Okay, so now without further ado, let's go straight into it. Self-awareness, mental toughness, and team working. So now a little bit of research just to tell you that a few facts. 80% of startup is stated to fail. Now, I don't want you to be scared. This is not the purpose of this masterclass, but we need to know that even 2/3 sometimes do not deliver a positive return to investors. Why is that? Is because of your idea? It could be, but sometimes if you kicked off a startup, you must have a good idea. Lots of times it's the mental approach that you have got that does make the difference, especially because we live in a world which is a changeable world, the so-called VUCA world: volatile, unpredictable, complex, and ambiguous. Let's think about what we have been going through in the past 2 years: a global pandemic, currently political instability. So how do we respond to things that we cannot control, that are major forces that are above ourselves, but that we react to them? Do we really stop and think about why we react in the way that we react? I don't think we always do that. So we need, this is the first learning point, why we react the way which we react. By thinking about this, we're going to start unlocking our potential to maximize our performance. So I'm asking you now to think about obstacles, to think about things that you're facing currently in your job, or that you have faced. So how did you overcome those? Or how are you planning to do so? Do you feel stuck? Do you feel unsure? If you overcome them, did you overcome them in the way you wanted to? Here is a matter of becoming aware. Did you just do it because it's your approach, is your personality? So that's me. I do it in this way. That's it. I don't want to learn about it. I don't want to understand why I've done that, but this is how I act. Okay, this could be fair enough, but you need to be aware why you react and act in the way in which you do. Okay. So why, therefore, having the right mental approach does matter in business? It does matter in business because going back again to some researches, now my academic background comes into play here. So I'm quoting the Chartered Management Institute, which is the professional bodies for management here in the UK. So researchers have demonstrated that in the market, there is a big gap when it comes to communication skills, agility, and adaptability. So people needs to be nurtured, needs to develop those skills. Why? Because only you can be game ready and you can predict your response when you're confronted with something that you don't know, if you know about yourself. Let's think about, questioning yourself. How would I react in an hypothetical situation? If you have never done so, you don't know how you would approach that circumstance. And therefore, this could be proved to be challenging because sometimes your default mental response might not be the most beneficial ever. Okay, so I want you now to think about a situation in which your anticipated default mental response would be. So what would you do? In simple terms, what would you do if you weren't to think about it, approaching a certain situation, and reflect whether this is the most beneficial response or not. Okay, you can either type something in the chat, or I'm happy if you write it down in your own paper or your own notes. Think about a default mental response. Are you satisfied with it? Are you happy with it? These could be questions that can really trigger a sort of an internal analysis for you, because again, you have to know who you are, because by knowing who you are, this is going to impact your business. Your business is going to raise its identity, because you might own the business, you might be the business owner, you might be a business partner. So you really want to make sure that the business goes well, that you're running in the right direction. So you need to think about the effects that your actions might have on it. Okay, and how do we do this? So this is the first tool I'm presenting, which is how you can raise self-awareness about yourself. This looks like a very simple grill. We have got 4 quadrants in here, and we can see we've got 2 variables. What's known to you and what's known to others. Okay, so this grill actually represents the level of self-awareness that a person has on themselves and what others think of them. So what is the open area? The open area is what I'm aware about myself and other people know. Let's say, for example, I tell my teammates that I really love working under pressure, because by working under pressure, I can get stuff done. Okay, so this is something I know about me. I'm aware of it. Other people know. So this is open. Okay. There are other stuff which I might not know about myself, but other people might know. So the blind area, let's say you guys tell me, Alessia, you're talking too loudly or you're talking too quickly. Can you please slow down a little bit? And maybe I didn't recognize it, and you're telling me that. So this is a constructive feedback that's helping me to raise awareness of myself. There might be some stuff that are just my things. Maybe something happens in my family, something at work that I don't want necessarily share them with everybody, okay? And this is something that I might need trusted people to share them with. And this is fair enough. This is why the concept of trust, especially in a startup, if you're working with business partners, it's important. You have to establish that sense of trust. And this sense of trust can come from where? Communication, opening up with your partner, and just sharing what's going on in your mind, because what's happening in your mind at some point is gonna impact your work and is gonna impact your business. So this is your hidden area. But what about the unknown area? So what's not known to me and what's not known to others either? Can I learn with feedback? I don't think so, because if it's not known, how do I go about it? I have to discover it. I have to discover it, maybe, through self-discovery, so through self-analysis and awareness, or through a shared discovery. How does this happen? I want you to apply this in your teams, because this masterclass, the benefit of this masterclass is that I'd like you to bring something with you, to take something away that you can apply in your workplace. So you need to think about how this window can be applicable in your workplace, in your concept, in your context. So I've given you here some instructions on what to do, how to apply it, and think about maybe adjectives that identify you, that describe you, and ask others how they would describe you, and see, is there a correlation? Is there a discrepancy? So what can I understand? What further deeper insight can I elicit from it? And how can you keep track of it? You've got a tool here, which is called a mirror board. So the mirror board is a tool you can use for free. It's an interactive board that looks like this. Don't worry if you can't read that. It's not the point. It's just to show you that on a virtual screen, you have the opportunities to do the activities online and link with people wherever they are. So you can really use that, but you can really use it in a good way if you focus on point 3. Reflection. Okay, when you find out something that you didn't know, maybe sometimes you don't even like them. Maybe sometimes people are going to tell you something that are going to annoy you, and you're maybe not going to accept them at the first moment. That's fair enough, but how do you work on that? How can you develop it? And this links us to the concept of mental toughness. Okay, what is mental toughness? Mental toughness is closely connected with self-awareness, and mental toughness is a personality trait. We've got a definition, a personality trait. What does it mean? Everybody in this room or anybody who's going to watch this masterclass will have a personality traits. Mental toughness is part of your personality, and it really explains in part how you respond to challenges, how you respond to stress, how you respond to pressure, but be careful, irrespective of the circumstances. So what would be your default mental approach to a circumstance because of your personality? Is it the same as behavior? To an extent, you might behave in a way because it's a consequence of your thinking. So why do we think? The way in which we think is going to determine how we act in the way in which we act. So mental toughness is describing and assessing how and what people think when events occurs. So it's what comes before the actual action, the actual behavior. That's why it's a very important concept, because you might want to go and do all the personality assessment in this world. You're not going to assess your mental toughness, because this is what really is the why underpinning your behavior. So how can we put this into practice? Let's think about myself and Sylvie, all right? We are in the same work environment, yeah? We have got, let's assume, it's not true, but let's assume we have got the same background and the same skill set. Sylvie is extremely successful. She thrives. She's in the best environment ever for her. For me, I find it extremely challenging, extremely daunting. How is that possible? We have got the same skills, we have got the same background, we had the same education. Why is she so successful and I'm finding it so hard? It's because of our default mental approach. It's our mindset. First of all, sometimes we might not succeed in things because we already think that we are not going to be able to make it. Believe me, I'm not saying that skills is not important. Of course, skill set is essential, but how do we go about approaching the situations in which we are in? We need to think about how can you improve our level of mental toughness, and I'm going to be giving you some tools to improve it. So if you guys now are doubting and thinking, well, I might not be naturally tough, well, this is fair enough. There's nothing wrong in not being extremely mentally tough, and we are going to be investigating why. But what I'd like to tell you at this point in this masterclass is to think about yourself as an individual with their own set of skills, with their own personality, with their own mindset, and try to think that you're valuable because of who you are, because of what you stand for. And you have to be aware of the uniqueness that you're going to bring. So when it comes to working in a team, this is what makes a team successful, understanding where the strength of the team players lie, and as well as the weaknesses, because by knowing the weaknesses, we can try to find a balance. So don't think that to be successful, you have to be 100% mentally tough. Why? The opposite of mental toughness is not mental weakness. The opposite of mental toughness is mental sensitivity. We have to think about mental toughness as a spectrum. So if in some elements of mental toughness, in some dimensions, which I'll introduce in a second, okay? Let me spoil one, okay? So I'm gonna spoil one dimension, control, for example. Let's say that I'm not able to control my emotions extremely well. Is this 100% a downside? It might not be necessarily a downside if other people know about my approach, I know about it, and therefore I work on improving it. Risk. Am I a person who takes lots of risks? Maybe I'm not. Is this necessarily a problem? No, really. It depends what type of job I'm doing. If I'm in a role in which I do not necessarily have to take risks to succeed, maybe I do more of a daily tasks, quite routinized. I have to achieve efficiency and effectiveness, but I'm not required to embrace risk. Do I really need to be mentally tough on risk? Well, if I'm happy with being mentally sensitive, which means not embracing many risks as such, and it's okay in the workplace setting I'm in, but also I'm happy with this approach in my personal life, I do not necessarily have to change it. Okay. Now, some of you are starting to doubt about it at this point of the masterclass. Some of you are starting to think, do I do that? Or what do I do? Or is this the approach I should have? Write these things down, because I hope in the next 40 minutes to try to give you an answer to all of this. Okay. Why, though, understanding the concept is important? Again, it's very important because researchers have proven that 20% of variation in performance leads upon mental toughness. So individuals that are able to know where their strengths are is going to have an impact on their performance. And therefore, this performance is positively going to impact their business. Especially if you have got a startup, it's important to understand how you can be the best version of yourself. Being the best version of yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be mentally tough. It means that you have to be self-aware of what is the best version of yourself. And I can guarantee that by starting to think about how you can be the best version of yourself, you will start to investigate the topic of mental toughness. This is linked with how we handle challenges, how we handle stressful situation, and the ability we have to try to maintain a sort of positive behavior and trying to keep a good well-being. Sometimes keeping a good well-being can be an issue, especially if you are in a position with lots of responsibilities. But we need to learn how to take care of ourselves, okay? And not feel guilty that if we're doing something for ourselves, we are taking time off from work. We are not. This is going to impact our performance ultimately, because if we feel better with ourselves, we are going to feel better also at work. If we do something because we have to and we don't want to, we are not going to get the same results as if we really wanted to do it, okay? Because it's going to help us achieve our ambitions as well. Our ambitions are going to be the ambitions of the business that we are in or the business we work for. So how can we align those? We align those if we know ourselves. We align those if we know what makes us feel good, what makes us feel the best versions of ourselves. So is mental toughness then, a male-dominated concept? Unfortunately, there is lots of misunderstanding around the concept. So it's important that we really think about differences gender not being extremely relevant in this setting, okay? So there might be argument where women might have some natural skills and men might have other skills by nature which are different. We can argue that. We can argue this from a point of skill set, but from a point of having a mental toughness approach, which is a personality trait and which is your mindset, researchers have proven that patterns are generally the same. Does it mean that if I'm mentally tough, I'm uncaring? Well, not necessarily. I can be as literate as anyone else. I'm just aware, and other people might not be aware of it. Is it about winning purely in sport or in work? So that concept is coming from sport. It's coming from sports coach using the concept of mental toughness to stimulate people to achieve the best performance. But as I've just said, it's about being the best version of yourself, the best version that you can do. And does everybody needs to be mentally tough necessarily? Self-awareness is the key, as I've just mentioned. So mentally sensitive individual can be successful too. It depends on the nature of the job that you are in. It depends on what type of growth you want to have for yourself, but you have to be aware of it. So if you're a person that doesn't tend to take risks, you need to know that, because definitely when it comes to do a job that will entail lots of risk taking, you might struggle in there. Okay, so it will help you direct your career, but also direct the people you surround yourself with, because you might complement this with your teammates. Okay, so this is something that I really want you to focus on and think about. Don't be scared of analyzing yourself. Okay, don't be scared of thinking about it. So mental toughness then was first researches at University of Hull, Manchester Metropolitan University, under the director of Peter Clough, Professor Peter Clough, identified these 4 components of mental toughness. This is a model which is, you will find it anywhere you look for the concept of mental toughness. There's no reason why we have got these elements in this order. They are independent amongst each other, but we can see interlink and interdependence. But it doesn't matter if we start from control or we start from confidence, okay? So these dimensions of mental toughness are 4 dimensions, and we can see them here: control, commitment, challenge, and confidence, okay? So this is what we are going to be looking at and thinking about the fact that these are aspects of mindset. What does it mean? That our default mental response to a given situation is because of our mindset. So if we want to change our response, we can change it by working on our mental toughness level, therefore working on our mindset, okay, to achieve better outcomes. This is the key of it. And we need to think about what does it mean, therefore, being mentally tough. Does mental toughness means being resilient? So have a look at this framework and follow it with me. So if we go here, resilience. So what is resilience? It's the ability to cope with difficulties, right? Does mental toughness being resilient? Well, mental toughness does entail a level of resilience. It does, of course, because to be mentally tough, you have to be able to have control of your life. We've got this dimension. And control then takes the form of life control and emotional control. So as you can see, each dimension has got 2 sub-dimensions. And commitment. If I want to cope with challenges, I have to be committed. I have to feel that I can achieve stuff and I'm oriented enough to achieve my goals. So of course, in the concept of mental toughness, there is a bit of resilience, but mental toughness is more than that. Mental toughness is not just coping with difficulties. It's how we approach things that happen in our life in terms of our work life and our personal life. How do we go about it? Do we need to survive? It might entail a certain level of coping with difficulties, but the ultimate aim is not to survive, therefore to be resilient and not give up. But the ultimate aim is to seize and see opportunities. So we have to have a mindset which is a positive mindset, which enables us to be confident enough in our abilities, which will help us to see opportunities. If we're not confident in our abilities, where are we going to look at? We are not confident in ourselves, so how can we see opportunities coming? But also we have to have that level of understanding that we can learn from setbacks, learning orientation. And the learning from setbacks will help us to take the risks, to embrace other risks, because we are not going to be scared of failing. Okay, lots of people, and I bet people in this masterclass as well, you might not have taken risks because you were scared of failure. Now, I don't like calling it failure. I like calling it a learning opportunity. Okay, because everything that you do, even though it doesn't go according to plan, it doesn't go according to the way in which you wanted it to go, it's not a failure. You're learning from it. As long as you're able to turn this into an opportunity for future, this is something that you can keep in your bag and you can keep in your portfolio. You've tried it didn't work, fair enough. How can we implement the concept of implementation, which in your work in a startup is crucial? How can we implement the work that we are doing? Okay, so as you can see here, it's all a matter of also what we think and how we say it. I didn't use the word failure. I used learning opportunity, because this makes us feel positive about maybe the future that's coming. If we see this as a failure, we are going to think about, oh gosh, I haven't got skills, I haven't got anything, I'm not good at anything in this world, I'm not able to commit to something because I'm not able to achieve it. No, okay? Not everything can go 100% right, because we are all human beings. Never forget that we are all human beings, okay? So you don't have to put too much pressure on yourself, but rather think about what you can take out of it and learn from it. So here we've got an explanation of the 8 factors, which I've briefly explained it to you in practical terms, which is what I want to stay with you. what the concept practically means. So I've developed these, I've actually taken from the book quoted here, which I'm going to reference at the end. So if you want to explore the topic more, I've taken these flow map, okay, the mental toughness flow map, which shows you what practical activities correspond to the dimensions of mental toughness. When we talk about commitment and consciousness, what is that? Well, you are able to work hard, to really put the effort into it. And that's very important, especially if you have got your own business. To what extent are you willing to put an effort in what you're doing? To what extent do you trust your idea? And to what extent do you trust people around you to implement it with you? So to what extent I'm able to stretch myself, to look for challenges? Do I do that? Do I look for challenges? Maybe I don't. Should I? This is a question. Should I look for challenges? And if I take challenges, am I able to maintain focus? Am I able to be oriented towards the goal that I want to achieve? This is the practical application of what? Of commitment, yeah? And if I've taken all of these challenges, I'm maintaining the focus. Do I actually believe in myself? Lots of people can tell me, Alessia, you're good at public speaking. Well, do I believe in it? Do I think so? Do I inside myself think that this is a strength of mine? And sometimes it's not bad to recognize that you have got certain skills, okay? I would advise to always keep yourself humble, because by being humble, you are keen to learn. This is important, okay? There's no need of having to showing off, because by showing off, which could be the opposite of being mental toughness, which could be having a detrimental effect on mental toughness, which I'm going to talk in a second, you might damage people around you. So we need to balance it out. To what extent do we have to be mentally tough? To what extent do we have to have people around us that are like us or different from us? And when it comes to deal with people, then what approach do we have? Are we able to take responsibility? Are we more delegators? Do we more like to delegate? There's nothing wrong in that, but you need to know that maybe this is the approach that you prefer, you're more keen on. And when something happens, am I able to keep control of my emotions? Do I persist? Or do I feel, I want to give up because it's too much for me? It could be, but it's not giving up. It's just realizing that maybe really at that point it was too much. So what do I need to do to better off it, to change it, to approach it from another perspective? I can stop for a couple of minutes if we have got any questions before presenting you a real case study to understanding this concept. I don't know if we got any questions at all.
Thanks, Alessia. That's really good. Lots to take on in just half an hour. So I just had Vimal mention that, we were talking about learning opportunities, and he just mentioned that, you have to be patient to overcome certain obstacles, and they are not the end of the journey, but they are part of the journey. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that?
Definitely. This is what I've just mentioned about the concept of how we look at failures, right, Vimal? So when we look at failures, it might have been an obstacle that you had to deal with, that you have to have an approach to it. And maybe you didn't approach it in the way you wanted to, or maybe it was not under your control. It could be, okay, this was an obstacle, but this is part of your learning journey if you've got an approach that enables you to learn from it. This is the learning orientation bit that goes into play there. An obstacle becomes part of the journey if you're able to learn from that obstacle. If you're very low in terms of learning orientation, which means I don't care what happened, well, it didn't work, it was not my fault, I blame somebody else's for it, and then you go again and do the same thing, then the obstacles can really impede you from achieving your goals because you're not learning from it. Okay, but you're just allowing it, okay, to take over you because you haven't got the right mindset to learn from it and approach it. So yeah, it's part of a journey if you know how to approach it. But it was a great question. Thank you.
As for me, before we carry on, that you also have control, life control.
Yeah.
We can't control life. How do you manage that?
That's a very good question. And I've just opened up this slide for you, because think about, Sylvie, do you mind if I put in the concept of a startup? So do you mind, you've got your own startup, yeah? And they are going to give you some funds. They're going to find you, okay? Found you for your startup. So these people need to understand what? They need to understand all these dimensions of mental toughness. And since you asked these questions, I'm going to go through them right now. And in terms of control, they want to understand if you've got the genuine sense of can do. So when it comes to life, the concept of life control, you're right, there might be major forces that you cannot control. Something might happen. The key is, how do I respond to it? What's my mental approach to it? Is my mindset allowing me to have this sense of can do, to have this sense to really take the most out of the situation, learn from it, and maybe go on, but put the learning into practice? Or have I got this approach where, if we go here to life control, this approach where, you know, maybe I might think about, I can't believe in myself. So I don't believe in myself. Therefore, if I don't believe in myself, I by default think that everything happens that I can't control it. There might be some stuff which I can't control, but there'll be other stuff which, if I've got the true sense of control of my life, which means I believe in myself and I believe I can do it, I can take control of situation which apparently looked like uncontrollable. Okay, so as I've said, this concept is not helping you to sort out everything in your life, but it's helping you to see things from another perspective. It's helping you to see about what mindset can help you to thrive in certain circumstances, rather than to make the circumstances overwhelm you. I hope
okay. Yeah, thanks. So we should always take a second to reflect before acting, for example.
Yeah, this is a good point. Yeah, so this is one of the things that I will advise at the very end of this masterclass.
Okay.
So something happens to you, since we found out that mental toughness is your mental approach to it, okay, how do we manage to improve our default mental response to it? So either we do a deep self-awareness analysis, and therefore we know that if X happens, I behave in a way, okay? If I'm not able to do it, I need then to think about what would be the best approach I could have. So step back, think about it, what would be better, which is tricky because sometimes we don't know what would be better. That's why the power of self-awareness goes into play there, because we need to start to think about ourselves in different settings, in different concepts, and think about how we can have the mindset that can help us thrive in that concept.
Thanks, Alessia. One more question. You know, the chat is becoming active now. So it's one question from Praveen Matthew. Yep. How important is interpersonal skills in mental toughness? What scale it affects success of the startup?
Very, very great question. I'm delighted you mentioned this, because now I can put my activity into practice.
Perfect.
When we have got the concept of interpersonal skills, according to the model, interpersonal confidence goes under the confidence bit, the confidence factor. So as you can see in here, confidence takes the shapes of two sub-dimensions: confidence in your abilities. So it's important for you to be the owner of a startup, not only to be able to demonstrate on paper what skills and what qualifications you have got, because I'm founding you, I might look at your CV and say, okay, this person has been very successful in their career. They managed to set up the business. They've got these certain skill set. Good. But if I'm founding you, I want to hear from you. I want to hear if you really believe in yourself enough to think that you can deal with whatever is thrown at you. This is the key in confidence in abilities. Having confidence in abilities not only means having qualifications and having skills, but really believing that you can handle things if they are thrown at you. When you've got a business, I bet you have to talk to people, maybe to get funds. You have to talk to people if you need suppliers. You can see here, interpersonal confidence. It's all about building relationship with these people. So how do I build a relationship that not only, and this is the key, that not only is allowing you to secure some funds or to secure some success in the short term. We have seen the problem with startups is in the long term. After 3 years, We have got an 80% of failure. So what these people didn't do well wasn't establishing a long-lasting professional relationships with the people they talk to, with the people they start to build relationship with. Why? Because they might not have had that sense of trust building up. So they might have approached these partners, or they might have approached these suppliers to build relationship just for the sake of it, just for the short-term benefit that they could have from it, rather than thinking in the long term. So what's key in here to answer to your question is the vision. Am I able to see where I want to go? Am I able to see what I need to do now? Which approach do I have to have now to have a long-term vision of my business, to see what's the purpose, where I'm going to. When you kick off a business, the first thing that you do on top of implementing your idea, what is that? Creating a purpose statement, right? What's your mission, what's your vision, and what's your values? This is the core of your business: mission, vision, and values. How am I able to trust that I've got the right confidence in myself and the right skills to sell my values to the people I'm starting to have interpersonal relationships with? Because interpersonal confidence is as important as all the other skills. You might have challenge orientation, so you might have a mindset that will enable you to really see opportunities without getting paralyzed, which is crucial. Starting a business itself is about seeing opportunities, is a challenge itself, isn't it? So you might well be risk oriented. You might have a strong sense of learning orientation, so you will not repeat the same mistakes. But what if I'm not able to establish the relationship with people as I'd want to? And this is, I'm gonna complete the answer to your question when we finish off at the end to talk about teamwork and how mental toughness can impact team working. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thanks, Alessia.
Yeah, very good. All right, so this was great because I could actually show you how the concept of mental toughness is put into practice when we talk about startups. So how important it is for a person that is funding you to see what level of control you've got, of commitment you've got, of confidence and challenge. You will be getting these slides at the end of the masterclass, so I strongly encourage you to think about this. And now I want you to think with me. Now you must be fed up of my voice, 45 minutes talking. I want you to think with me. So I prepared 4 scenarios for you with the practical application of the 4 dimensions of mental toughness in your own workplace, okay? Think about the environment you are every day. Let's go with control. This is the scenario, very simple. A business partner or anybody involved in the business is insisting that you have to make change to your products, okay? Do you have control over it? Maybe no, because this is something that you have to do, maybe because the product is not working well, and maybe what the business partner is suggesting is sensible, is reasonable. So going back to Sylvie's question here before, do you have control of what is happening? Maybe not to a great extent, because they want me to do it because they can show me the rationale underpinning it. What do I do? How do I manage the situation? What approach do I have? Write it down, deeply think about it. And when thinking about it, refer to the 2 sub-dimensions of control. Life control, so do you have the so-called can-do attitude, okay? And emotional control. What's your reaction? What's your first reaction if somebody comes to you and tells you your product is not working? We need to make changes to your product. How do you react? Do you panic? Do you stress out? What's your first approach? And not only think about in a descriptive way, but think practically if this is the best approach. This is the key in this masterclass, guys. Not only think about how you would react, but if this reaction would be the best reaction you could have, okay? And why you think that. So think about this. I'd like you to write this down, and all of these toolkit is with you. So after this masterclass, you will have lots of on your paper, on your computer, lots of bulletin points or lots of reflection. Go back and read them after this session and think about what I'm telling you right now. So we can link this to commitment. think about what you had to commit to when funding your company or when getting funds for it. How could you guarantee that you could have achieved it? Do you think you've got a big sense of commitment, so you'll do whatever it takes to maintain promises, to keep those promises, and to fulfill your objectives? Or did you think from the beginning, oh gosh, this is bigger than me, I'm not going to be able to manage it? Okay, think about that. So think about what you think is your level of commitment. And if it's not extremely high, would it be beneficial to be surrounded by someone else who might have a stronger sense of commitment that can stimulate you, that can help you, that can motivate you? Don't look at people who are different from you as potential challenging individuals. You can compensate each other. This is how the dynamic of teamwork is. And I'm going to talk about it in a minute, okay? Now, think about challenge. Again, write everything down because it's going to be good food for thought for you. So, research demonstrates startups fail because of a poor business model. Maybe the overall concept of the business is great, but it could be based on a business model that maybe hasn't been well thought through or isn't properly scalable. This could cause major issues, not now, in 2 years' time. What do? Issue, it's a problem, right? What do? Do I take the risk now of investing more money to change my business model, to adapt it? Or do I stay with something that's more certain, with something that's secure, because it's giving me security, and maybe I'll think about it later. I'll see what's going to happen in 2 years' time. So think about that as well, okay? And then finally, let's think about confidence, okay? So a software that you have developed, yeah, maybe you chose it because you have got a strong confidence in your abilities and you picked it using common sense and using your skill set. You really invest in that software. You really invest in it, but it proves that it's not meeting the industry standards. You were confident this would have met specifications, but it didn't. What do? Does this adverse situation stress you out to the extent to which you feel you're not able at the end to believe in yourself anymore because you see it as a failure? Or do you see this as a learning opportunity and still believe that you do have the skills to be able to manage it? It's very important. And I want to give you a couple of seconds just to reflect on it, to write this down, and just to analyze yourself. It's tricky when you have to analyze yourself, especially when you have to challenge something that might have always worked. And all of a sudden, it doesn't work. So I'm freaking out, I'm panicking. How do I handle it? Okay. So I hope these practical applications of the mental toughness concept will help you in your daily operations in your job, because as you can see, not only is it about understanding your mental approach, but it's also about understanding how do I work with others. And this leads us to our third tool, which is mental toughness and team working. Okay, this is a great tool which encourages you then, if you do meetings with your team once in a fortnight or whenever, bring this tool to the table. Bring this tool to the table and think about where you place yourself and where you place your team. So this diagram is useful because not only shows you what are the 5 components of team working, but also shows you how the 4 dimensions of mental toughness closely link and interlink with the concept of team working. Okay, so if we have a look at this, we can see that a team, to be an effective team, to be a team that is a team player, has to aim to continuously improve. They have to have a good sense of communications amongst the team. If you don't talk, if you don't share your ideas, how can others be expected to know it? And when you communicate, you have to do it actively. active communication, which is linked to listening. When somebody talks to you, this can sound obvious, but believe me, lots of things I've delivered like that. Lots of people told me, well, actually, maybe I'm a passive listener. Well, this could prove to be an issue, because you really have to actively listen to what people are saying. Maybe people, when they've got a problem, when they've got an issue, they're not able to fully argument it. They're not able to fully explain it because they are on the wave of emotions. So you have to be careful to really listen the details actively. This is the key to effective team working, because this will help you to work together successfully and engage with success. If a team works well together, they're not going to be jealous of each other when they do the work, because they are aiming at sharing the ultimate objectives that they want to achieve, and this is motivating them. Achieving success is a source of motivation, is not a source of conflict, because the team is working together. And this is going to help your business. Why? Because the objectives of a team, the objectives that you accomplish in your department, that you accomplish in your area of expertise, have to be aligned with the corporate objectives. So we see the corporate level strategy, which is aligned to the business level strategy, and how you, as an owner of a startup, small, medium, or big, how are you able to make sure that your team is working towards accomplishing objectives that are meeting the vision of the business itself? Okay, this is strategy. This is a concept of being able to strategize, to be mastering. How do I align my own values, my own personal development? Because people that are working with you or that are working for you will want to see a sense of personal fulfillment and personal satisfaction. How can this be transferred into the workplace, into the work that they're doing for you, they're doing for the business? This is the key, because if they're happy with what they're doing, and happy workforce translates to a productive workforce, because the key is people. People, now lots of concepts here. That's why I'm glad we're recording this, so we can watch it again. People are the most important asset for any business. You have to look at people as your value. Okay, that's why I've told you people are valuable, because they're unique. Is their uniqueness that's bringing profitability to your business. So how do we make sure that we nurture their strength and we work on improving the weaknesses? So if we think about challenge, if we think about the extent to which our team is risk-oriented or oriented to learning, this is leading to improvement, isn't it? If we are keen to learn, if we are keen to embracing risk, this will help our team to learn, to continue to improve. And this continued improvement is only going to happen if when you answer something and you meet certain objectives, you meet certain common goals, because you've got this sense of orientation, of goal and achievement orientation, you're actually able to manage it. So how do I manage what I'm doing? To have the to-do approach we talked about before. So this sense of life control, which is helping you in terms of managing your emotion as well. And by managing your emotions, therefore, by having this sense of shared purpose, you're going to be able to work together more effectively. And this is going to help you not only about making you feel more comfortable because you're improving your own skills, but it's a matter of team effort. It's teamwork. So it's the interpersonal confidence, again, to the questions that we asked before. So how do we work together, establishing long-lasting relationship, which is helping us to thrive as a team through effective communication. Okay, so I want you to take this tool with you in your companies, and this is a practical application of the tool. So I've put in here some questions that you can really think about when you sit down with your teams and go through the strengths and the weaknesses that your team members have got. Think about how effectively you can work with each other. Think about which actions are key to increase your team toughness. Think about how we reduce stress. Think about how we can achieve peak performance, but don't do it in an abstract way. Do it in a very concrete way. By doing it in a concrete way, it will help you to enhance your mental toughness. What do I mean by concrete? Well, we've got some suggestions in here, how you can practically develop your mental toughness if needed. So from now, these 3 things are 3 things that you can do now. After we finish the masterclass in 5 minutes, this is what you can start doing. Setting goals. You have to set goals which are SMART. What does SMART mean? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. These are not just acronyms. You really need to think about things that can be achieved, things that are scalable, things that are specific, that you can measure, and you've got a time frame for accomplishments, okay? This will help you to visualize a long-term objective. Another technique you can use is the so-called eating the elephant. Now, you might think, what the hell is eating the elephant? In other words, we can talk about the 2 to 4 to 8 rule. What is it? Can you eat the elephant all in a go? Well, assuming you wanted to eat an elephant, can you eat it all in a go? You can't, it's too big. So what I say, when you got such a big task, a big milestone that you have to achieve, something that you think, well, no, I haven't got control on it. No, I'm not able to do it. I really need to give up in here. I'm not going to take this responsibility. Think how this can be split into manageable chunks. Think how you can achieve this in the short term, in the mid-term, in the long term. By thinking about which SMART goals you can achieve in this short term, mid-term, and long term, you're going to be able to accomplish your final milestones, because it's going to help you to structure it. Sometimes we don't accomplish stuff because you haven't got a structure. Sometimes things are very easy to do, but we panic, we don't get it because we start to feel anxious, because we don't have a structure. So think about how you can achieve goals in these concrete ways. If you're a person that you really believe in terms of your mental toughness, one of your struggle is emotional control, which was my struggle for me. So by the way, this was a mental toughness questionnaire, which I did 2 years ago. As you can see, look at that, emotional control, 1. Indeed, I was still freaking out before this masterclass today, if I have to be honest, but I did work on it. I did work on my emotional control. And what did I do is I started to think about what could make me feel more relaxed. So think about controlled breathing, think about relaxation, something that can distract you. And there is a very good technique by Laura Mitchell, which I encourage you to Google it and have a look at a psychological relaxation. These are all things that can help you manage your emotions. How can you do it? If you know that you're very emotionally sensitive. If you don't know that you're emotionally sensitive, you cannot work on improving it. Another thing that lots of people find out when they start to self-analyze themselves on the concept of mental toughness is they might have a very low attention span. They might not be able to deal very well with interruptions. So I've recommended here a tool which you can use. It's called the number grid. You can just Google it, and it's a grid from numbers from 0 to 99, 90 seconds. How many numbers are you able to pick on the grid subsequently without interruptions and without losing focus? I couldn't after 30 seconds. I already lost focus. I did it in, over a week. And after 1 week, trust me, my focus just improved. Just improved because I was really wanted to achieve that. I really wanted to do it. Therefore, I just, as if I was isolating myself from the external environment and I was focusing on the task. So don't be scared if you do it and after 10 seconds, you lose focus. That's why then you should keep doing it, okay? And last thing, because I appreciate we are hitting the hour now. So last thing is we have got here a mental toughness questionnaire, which is the example I've shown you before. The mental toughness questionnaire is extremely reliable, it's validated, and it's supplied by MTQR, so AQR International. So they are the suppliers and the researchers on the concept of mental toughness. So I put a link in here if you want to find out more. I think it has got a cost, which I think it's though quite affordable, but I encourage you, if you start to become interested in it and you really want to have a report as the one I've showed you, or what could be the next step for improvement, the mental toughness questionnaire could be one thing that can complement this practical applications that you can do from now. I've left here the email in case you want to have a look at it. Here, there are some, I'm not sure if you're interested in further literature, but just thought that if we really want to understand about ourselves, it would be good to start reading about it as well. So I've suggested here 3 books, and the first one is the one which I personally encourage if you wanted to read more, and the one I personally read, and it really explains why self-awareness is the key to success, which I hope I tried to convey to an extent. I appreciate there is lots still to cover, but some takeaways for today is that optimizing mental toughness is important without self-awareness. Self-awareness is ongoing. You may start to self-question yourself today and never stop it, which is the purpose of it, because it will allow us to enhance our default mental response to circumstances, which you can enhance. Why? Because it's inner, it's inside you. It's a personality trait, so you can enhance it. Mental toughness is a continuum. What does it mean, a continuum? The mental sensitivity, which is the opposite of mental toughness, doesn't correspond to mental weakness. This is crucial. Please always remember that. Always remember how an individual who is mentally sensitive in some dimensions of mental toughness can actually prove to be essential with the team dynamics to balance the team out. Okay, and I hope you find it useful and practical in terms of the applications you can have in your companies. I'm happy to answer any questions even at a later date. That's why you have got my email address at the very bottom. And I wanted to thank Cambridge Clean Tech for inviting me, because for me, I personally think that starting to raise more awareness of these concepts is really the key to succeed and to better performance. So thank you very much, everybody. Apologies if I overran for a couple of minutes, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Alessia. Really pleased to have you today for this first masterclass. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge and experience on this subject. So many points to take on, and I try at the same time, I felt sometimes I was quite overwhelmed. You're running a business, you have to control your team, understand your team, you also have your family life, and then you have also to understand yourself. And where do you put the time just to understand yourself? So thanks for sharing all these key points that we can put into practice to help us to understand us better. And if we understand us better, then we have a better understanding of our team, and then we can succeed. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the delegates. I will share the recording and the slides. Please do also fill the feedback form that I put in the chat. It's quite important for us also to understand what you want to hear, what you've learned from today. So thank you, everyone, and see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much again.